What happened to the greatest Washington players of all time list? I haven't done it yet. Pretty sure you should be 4th. I'm literally over you. So you would not be 4th. Sasper was number 6 in the world. Were you ever like top 10 in the world? Or tell me how that went for you. 95th in MPGR 2018. Okay, let's see. MIOM rankings. Toph. Let's look at the MIOM rankings. 2014, let's see. Just one of those years. I was ranked for more than 1 year, you know? So I have to pick a year, you know? It's a little different for you. With you kind of know which year you were top 100. With me, there's several years. Just kind of more of a star-studded kind of deal going on. Okay, 91st. So I would say from that data point, right? From that data point, do you think Ammon's over me? I think I can think of 5 people that are over you. I'm not on the top 5. Vish isn't on the top 5. And you're definitely not on the top 5. You know, it's tough. It's tough. Let me tell you. It's tough. It's tough when your highest global ranking is top 90, is 95th. You know what I mean? It's just tough. I feel like 91st, people start to turn their heads when they hear a number like 91. 91, they're thinking, damn, 91? That's almost the 80s. That's crazy. When I hear the 91 number, I'm thinking, holy smokes, that player could have been top 80, and 80 at that point, you're so solidly top 100, people wouldn't believe it. 95th, people kind of hear that number, and they're thinking, wow, 95, that really feels like it was a fluke almost that you were top 100 that year. You were only better than 5 people that were top 100. You know? I would say me and you different tiers, ultimately. So I'm in this tier, you're kind of more in this tier below. But, you know, you're free to make your own list. But let me tell you, I'll give you a sneak preview. I'm not in the top 5, and you're not in the top 5 either. So, well, Iceman, hey, you know what? Maybe you'll make the top 10 somewhere. Probably below me. Unfortunate. Very unfortunate. You know what? I wasn't even going to do honorable mentions, but just for you, I'm going to honorably mention myself, and then you in that order. All right, sorry about that, Noah. I had to just kind of set something straight in my chat. But okay, we're going to get into the top 5. Let's talk about what we value, because what I've realized when it comes to these all-time ratings, let's just be clear with ourselves here. It's all fucking subjective. It's literally all subjective. You know, Bobby Scar, top, you know, 69th best player in the world of all time. Of all time means you're weighing people who played in 2005 and people who played in 2020, right? Usually in these sorts of things, you weigh people against their adversaries, or their contemporaries, rather. And obviously, you can't always do that here. So I do value peak ranking a lot. And because I value peak ranking a lot, what is Vino's best result at a major? And I also need to clarify one more thing. I could have done top 5 from the Pacific Northwest of all time. And I actually think the list gets a little easier to make, because then I think you just take the top 4 of Washington and then you take Fat Goku and you put him at number 5 and you call it a day. I decided not to do that. And then it gets murky too, because then do you want to include Vancouver, British Columbia? You know, and then it turns into this whole thing, you know, and then it gets really subjective, because did Sion really have results like that? You know, not really, because he kind of quit before he started going to a lot of majors. But there was that one set where he went to the East Coast and he downered Has 4 times in a row, and that was really hype. But Fat Goku would definitely be on there. Unfortunately for Fat Goku, IBDW doesn't think that he's in the conversation for, I don't know, IBW made some top 30, top 40 power ranking thing and accidentally left off Spark and Fat Goku, which I think is really funny, because I think those two are pretty tight with Cody. But anyway, whatever, it's fine. Yeah, I just think you take my top 4 from Washington, then you put in Fat Goku, and you literally call it a day. But that's what we're doing. We're doing top 5 from Washington, and no list of the top 5 from Washington would be complete, because I do value peak ranking worldwide. There is no player who has held a higher peak ranking from Washington than Sastifer. Sorry. There you go. I'm getting better at pointing. Sastifer's going to be the first on the list. I want to get Sastifer out of the way. Sastifer is also the only player on this list who I've never met. I've never met Sastifer. I've never played Sastifer. So I really don't have any personal skin in the game. Sastifer was widely known, and apparently there's all kinds of drama and there's all kinds of rumors and shit going around with this, because if you check out, I really like this article to prepare for making this video. I read this article from BigKnock.com. Was a big fan of this one. Cinderella run of all time, Sastifer at FC3. Sastifer was known as a Ken Slayer. During Ken's reign, when Ken was pretty much solidly the best player, right? Sastifer was a guy that actually beat him in tournament twice. Now, according to this article, dude, things were confusing back then. Things were murky because take a look at I managed to sort through the annals of history here, and I found in the retro SSBM rank, which is these were created retroactively for years past from results. These are rankings that were created as if they were created that year, but they weren't. They were created after the fact. And you might notice things were wonky back in the day, man. We had Neo clocking in 6th worldwide with Roy. That's confusing, right? But you've got Sastifer at 6 in 2004 worldwide, right behind Shootat, and 5th worldwide in 2005. So Sastifer was somebody who had really, really, really good results. I mean, I think a lot of people watching this video are probably familiar with 1 through 4 if you've watched any of the Smash documentaries. Ken, Shootat, Isaiah, Azin. And if I sat here and I said to you, the year is 2005, who is the Peach player who is right behind Ken, Shootat, Isaiah, and Azin? I guarantee you most people familiar with these Melee documentaries would probably say, oh, I don't know, maybe Wife? Would it be Wife? I mean, I saw a lot of Wife in the Smash documentary. It's not. And all I know about Sastifer's got fucked up by Rustin at Shine. Let me tell you, Rustin does not make the list, Iceman. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I know you're dejected about that. But I think you're going to like, what I'm seeing from Iceman is Iceman really values recency. And because Iceman values recency, he's going to have no issue with my number 5 spot. I think he's going to have no issue with my number 5 spot. Iceman's he's going to look at my list. He's going to go, you know what? You're right. I actually am kind of a has-been when you put it this way. Yeah, if he's a top 20, he'd be there. And so would Vino. But, Sastifer did beat Ken twice. And apparently there's some asterisks on some of these sets. You'll notice that the word Pichu actually comes up in this article. There were rumors surfacing about Sastifer losing to Azin's Pichu in a friendly. Let me tell you, this is how rankings used to be decided. Back in the day, people would take things like this very seriously. If you lost to somebody's Pichu in a friendly, or if people even thought you lost to somebody's Pichu in a friendly, that was bad news for your career and for your rankings. To me, the fact that there was a rumor going around that he lost to Azin's Pichu in a friendly and he still managed to hold on to that number 5, number 6 spot for these years is actually very impressive. Because it was, it was a wild time. It was a wild time. Again, you could make number 6 in the world with Roy. Things were strange back in the day, okay? But Sastifer had won 2 sets over Ken. Sastifer, played, he had wins over players like, I believe, Shootat, who people speculated might have sandbagged in pools. Let me tell you, as someone from the West Coast back then, when I see West Coast player went to a tournament on the East Coast or in the Midwest in the case of FC and beat Shootat, an East Coast player, but Shootat was sandbagging, what that says to me is Sastifer beat Shootat, and then all the East Coast players who were there, of which there were probably many more of those than West Coast players because of proximity, probably all made excuses for Shootat. Now, back in the day, we called these Johns. It was a wild time back then. And that's why, with Sastifer, there's going to be a little bit of a question for me in terms of what these sets were even like. If you actually go ahead and you look for Sastifer versus Ken on YouTube, you will find some matches from MLG NY, MLG New York, where Ken actually does beat him pretty handily. And I believe that is from one of the tournaments that's discussed in this article. But yeah, Sastifer, incredible run at FC3. And that was one of the big, that was one of the all-time, biggest tournaments at the time. So winning twice over Shootat, beating him once in pools and once in bracket, having taken several sets off Ken, I think it would be remiss of me, and I think people would actually be a little bit upset with me if I didn't put Sastifer on this list. So I've never met the man. I've never played him. I don't really know much about his playstyle, but he is a Washington legend. And I will say, I will take this opportunity to just shout out his crew, because Sastifer was from a crew called Skypal. Skypal spelled Skypal. I think it's Sheik kills your peach at leisure. Because apparently they thought Sheik beat Peach really badly. I'm not really sure. I think there were 2 Peaches on this crew. They might have really not liked the Sheik matchup. I'm not really sure. So Sastifer and another member of this crew was Balefire Boy, who people who are old school fans of old school Melee might recognize from this footage. This was a match that happened in a crew battle. And the way crew battles work, as you know, is that, you take over the stock count from the previous, your previous match in the crew battle. So, Balefire Boy, who was a crewmate, this is not the player in question. This is not This is not our man Sasfer, but this did happen. And for a long time, this was the shortest match. This was the shortest tournament match in Melee history. It was a 3-second match where Balefire Boy, another Peach from SkyPal, was taken out very swiftly. So that's the only thing I really know about Balefire Boy, but I'm sure he was a legend. And I'm sure he was a great guy by all accounts. Don't have much else to say about him, but Balefire Boy, unfortunately, just like Rustin, another Peach player from the region, will not be making this top 5 list. A player who will be making this top 5 list is, and this one is probably the one where how do I word this? This was the greatest player. This was hands down the greatest player in Washington when I started playing. Hands down, and everyone would tell you this, but most importantly, the rest of the people on this list would tell you this, except for Iceman, of course, who has a lot of really strongly held opinions about how the top 5 of all time in Washington should be. You know, Rustin, Vino, eBay, Iceman, and that fucking Jigglypuff player that beat Iceman at that one local. So Iceman's list, that's different, and on his stream, which I think is a very, successful stream that, gets, I think he talks about these sorts of things all the time. I think that's going to be his list on his stream. But unfortunately, this isn't that stream. This is my stream. And the second person I will list in my top 5 is Commaster. I think a lot of people know Commaster at this point. He is often considered to be probably the greatest Luigi player of all time, although it's very close between him and players like Abate, of course. Abate, obviously a fan favorite, especially with that win over S2J with the crazy invisible ceiling glitch at Big House. Players like Eddie Mexico, right? Ja Raiden these days. I love Ja Raiden. So the thing about Commaster, he's a very, very fascinating player to me, and I think that his lore, the lore behind Commaster, is so interesting to me. Commaster won his first tournament. He's one of the only people I know that literally won his first tournament. From what I gather, I've known Commaster for a very long time, but obviously he's much more old school than me, and he started playing a long time before I did. And he came up with the second prominent crew from Washington. So Sasfer was from SkyPal. Commaster was a member of the second and probably the better known crew across all time, a crew called Combo Status. Now, you might know Combo Status for players like Silent Wolf, Eggs, Gimpy Fish, Bladewise, and of course, Luigi Commaster was probably the best player for many years on Combo Status. And if you asked any of the other members of Combo Status, they all felt like he was kind of the best. DJ Combo, another legendary member of Combo Status, who was a Marth player. They all felt like Commaster was just like so talented, so special. He started playing, got incredibly good really quickly, and he went to a SkyPal tournament. And this was crew beef, because back in the day, if you guys have watched the documentaries, crew beef was a thing. You'd have crew battles, and you'd have crews, and you wanted to prove that your crew was better than their crew, right? So they went to a SkyPal tournament. They brought this guy Commaster, and the legend goes that Commaster won this tournament. And they were like, "What the? This Luigi guy coming out of nowhere, stomping the team, right?" Commaster, the lore with him, or the story with him, Commaster was actually, and probably still is, he's a practicing Mormon. And he was very, very strict and very, devout, I suppose. And so he would not go to tournaments where he had to be there on a Sunday, because he always needed to go to church on Sunday. And this made Commaster basically someone who could almost never travel out of state for tournaments, because, as you guys know, most nationals just run into Sunday. They're usually weekend-long affairs. So Commaster only really went to 2 tournaments out of state. He went to 1 tournament for many years, I should say. For many years. Wow, look at that. I'm looking up Commaster. This is kind of crazy to me. It's crazy because, Iceman was in here last night. I just kind of noticed that this was funny to me, because Iceman was arguing about how he felt very strongly he should be top 5 Washington all time, because he was 95th once in 2018. 95th in the world once in 2018. Very impressive, right? Very impressive. And he's saying, all these other players are washed up, right? It's recency that matters, right? It's recency that matters. And I couldn't help but notice that, 2019 being a more recent year than 2018, and 74 being a lower number than 95, I guess I'm just a little bit dumbfounded by the logic here, because, Iceman was kind of almost insinuating, I know you're going to put Commaster above me, and I'm going to feel some type of way about it. I was 50-50 with Ammon I see. Yeah, lifetime head-to-head. Yeah, let's use lifetime head-to-head. Yeah, let's use, I think you're right. I think lifetime head-to-head does matter a lot. And consequently... I'm not going to finish this sentence, but you're right. I think lifetime head-to-head is a very important statistic and a very important metric. So I think we should keep these metrics in mind, right? Wow. It's a strong Captain Falcon, having taken sets off Bladewise and Iceman. Really? Commaster secondary? Huh. Wow. Commaster secondary? His Falcon? I've never seen him try to use Falcon in a major. Well, anyway. It's fine. It's fine. Must be some kind of glitch in the system. Something's going on here. But in any case, the 2 tournaments that he basically went to, and you'll notice that most of these majors just, Commaster really, even though he's a very old school player, his appearances at majors were very few and far between for a long time, right? Melee FC Diamond, he was able to go to in 2007, where he placed 9th. And I believe, if I can pull this bracket up, I wonder if this bracket is on SSB Wiki. I know that he had matches with, I know he beat some really good players. I want to say he might have lost to, I think he beat Shootout in pools and then lost to Shootout in bracket or something like that. Something like that. I don't super duper remember, but this was basically, this was a super major for its time for sure. I mean, if you look at these like top 7 placers, basically like any tournament where the top 3 in 2007 is Muta King, PC Chris, Shootout, that's like a stacked fucking tournament, right? So he's getting 9th at this tournament. He also got 2nd place at a very interesting tournament, UCLA 5, which was a SoCal tournament. And this is one of the most legendary grand finals in SoCal lore, where Mango actually threw to Hugs because Hugs really wanted to play Commaster, I believe. The story goes that I think Mango threw to Hugs by playing Mewtwo against Hugs. So letting Hugs advance over him. Hugs advances, fights Commaster in grand finals. And from the stories as they've been told to me, Luigi Samus, as it turns out, is quite a slow matchup. This grand finals drags. There's a bracket reset. People start getting kicked out of the venue because you'll notice the name of the tournament is UCLA. It's at a college. And as it turns out, the rec center or whatever is closing at this time. They kick everybody out except for Hugs and Commaster, the only 2 players that are allowed to stay in the room. And Hugs closes it out in a grueling Game 10 set. Yeah, that was Commaster basically kind of putting himself on the map. Anytime somebody from out of California travels to California and gets 2nd at, a very stacked regional, basically heads turn. And Mango actually is a player who I remember talking to about Commaster back in the day, and Mango loved Commaster. Mango was like such a big... There's a funny story Mango told me a long time ago where it was like, I think it was a Smash Fest right after Brawl came out, and everyone else in the house, 20, 30 people there, they're all, at this point, they're all still Melee players that are basically trying Brawl out, and this is a very contentious time in Smash's history. And the only 2 people who found a Melee setup in the corner that were just playing endless Melee friendlies against each other were Mango and Commaster. Everyone else, SoCal Melee players, they were all trying Brawl out, but Commaster was there, and Mango and Commaster were just playing Melee friendlies in the corner, which I think is such a cool story between those 2. And yeah, so Commaster, I think, just, I think for various reasons, most of them, like a lot of extenuating circumstances, I think he definitely could have been ranked a lot higher worldwide earlier. And to be honest with you, I thought he would stop playing. As you'll notice, again, looking at this list, he kind of didn't go to anything out of state for a long time. 2010 to 2015, just no appearances at anything. And I kind of thought we'd seen the last of him, but he started going to tournaments again. And all of a sudden, you're seeing a lot more, appearances at majors. We're seeing him at big houses, Genesis, right? And he's, definitely started being a lot more active. I don't know that he's been playing a lot recently since the online era, but right before it, in 2019, you can see that there's a lot of appearances from Commaster at a lot of big tournaments, and that's pretty awesome. And I look forward to seeing more of what he can do as offline tournaments continue to open up. So Commaster is going to be number 2 on this list. And now, we got to transition into a little more of an obvious appearance on the list. Somebody who I'm sure you're all expecting to be on here. Somebody who, it kind of would be, it would just be so shocking if this player didn't make the list. And of course, I'm not talking about Silent Wolf yet. I'm talking about Bladewise. Because Bladewise, let me tell you, I love Bladewise. I think Bladewise is one of the funniest people I've ever met. He's like he's so consistent. I think it was 39. Bladewise was ranked 39 for several years in a row. Bladewise is another player that I think Iceman thinks he should be ranked above via this metric or that metric or the other. But Bladewise was ranked 39th. I think it was 39th. He was ranked 39th several years in a row. I don't super duper remember. The only ranking that was listed on his that's listed on his Smash Wiki is actually 65th in 2019. Let me see if I can find Bladewise on the MIOM rank. 39. Yeah, I got such a good memory. 39. I remember he got 39 like two or 3 years in a row. I'm like, how the fuck are you getting 39th every single time? Bladewise was a player who was almost never considered the best Peach, but he was always. This is how every single. Okay, this probably the Zoomers aren't going to be able to relate to this because this is this is a conversation that used to happen a lot. But you'd always hear them say, who's the second best Peach after Armada? Because back in the day, it was who's the best Peach? Who's the best Peach? Court, blah, blah, blah. Then Armada came around. No one's wondering who the fucking best Peach is anymore. It's pretty clear. But then it turned into who's the second best Peach? Is it, this guy, that guy? And the conversation always goes, it's probably this dude. And then someone would be like, wait a minute, what about Bladewise? Bladewise's fucking good, man. And that was basically how the conversation went every single time. You always had, it was like, who's the second best Peach? And obviously this has changed over the years. These days, the question is as open as ever with players like Laud and Triff and Kalamazoo, kind of all feeling like they're in contention for best at specific matchups. But Bladewise was always incredibly strong. And for the longest time when I was coming up and when I was attending a lot of locals, basically every single local I went to was top two were Silent Wolf and Bladewise, usually in that order, but sometimes not. Sometimes not. Sometimes Bladewise would take the W. There was a period where Bladewise was actually ranked above Silent Wolf on the power rankings. And I'm going to use this opportunity to not talk about Bladewise's playstyle or anything like that, although there's a lot I could say about him. I think Bladewise definitely advanced Peach's defensive meta for a lot of players. Bladewise made a really instructive video that Peach players mention to this day of how to get out of goddamn Falcon's down throw knee. Bladewise was one of the first Peaches, even before, your favorite Peaches probably at home, who was consistently getting out of down throw knee, and he made a video, and I think that helped a lot of Peach players out because I still hear Peach players mention, watch Bladewise's video, he talks about how to get out of down throw knee. You hear that, you still hear that. So instead of talking too much about his what he brings to the table in terms of his gameplay, I will instead tell a story about Bladewise. It was when Bladewise was ranked number 1 in Washington, not number 2. And Silent and Bladewise, I'd moved down to NorCal not too long before this, and they actually both came down to NorCal for a regional. And in this regional tournament, Bladewise was actually able to get probably his career win, and he took out Mango. Not Mango going some other character, Mango going Fox. Literally, he just sent Mango to losers. Mango did end up winning the tournament, but Bladewise scored a W over Mango's Fox as Peach, which I don't think any Peach has ever done except for Armada. I think Armada's done that a lot, and I think Bladewise has done it one time, and I don't think any of the other Peaches have ever done that. So this was pretty big. It also wasn't at some local or whatever. It was at a regional. It was a big deal. I mean, it was kind of shocking, right? People are watching it, and they were like, wow, Mango just lost to Bladewise. And, I think, to a certain degree, it was like a best of 3. Mango wasn't trying the way he tries against Armada, this way or that way. But, I mean, you can't argue with results. He sent Mango to losers in one of Mango's, the matchups that he was the most known for playing, right? Mango and Armada is the highest level rivalry. So that was a big deal. And Bladewise was, he was riding high, I think. He was riding high. And Bladewise, he's a bookish type, I would say. He's a bookish type, right? He's got a, he's reserved in some ways, right? And he's a very kind of by the book individual. I feel like I can't envision Bladewise in my head without envisioning him in his classic lovable look, polo shirt and cargo pants. That's kind of the Bladewise look to me. And I think he had a very respectable placing at that tournament. I think he might have gotten like 5th or something like that. Nice young man. Could not describe him better myself. He's a nice young man. And Rule 6, thank you. Rule 6, that's exactly right. Rule 6 was the tournament. And Yeah, he did get fifth. He did get fifth at Rule 6, which was incredible. I mean, a really, really strong performance. I'm just gonna pull up the bracket again for Rule 6. Not the bracket, but the results. I mean, look, this is some shit to get fifth among this crowd. Tying S2J. Love when you get fifth in a tournament like this and you get $10. You'll love to see the $10 earnings. You love that. You'll love that. It's not gonna cover your lunch, but that's okay. Gets you part of the way there. Doesn't cover gas, but gets you part of the way there. This is a result, right? You're seeing SFAT at 9th, you know, Zoo at 9th, Silent Wolf at 13th, like Fly Amanita got 13th at this, Silent Spectre at 17th. This was the 5th at this tournament was really, really good. So yeah, Blade-wise, I definitely put himself on the map in this tournament. And so anyways, setting the stage for you guys. Blade-wise, incredible finish to this tournament. And then, you know, we're all outside the venue, right? We're all outside the venue. And he is always smiling. We're all outside the venue, and Blade-wise, you know, there was always a social pecking order, a hierarchy, if you will, to kind of the Washington melee, you know, those of us that were really tight, like our little crew. And usually, you know, it was kind of silent. We would kind of look to Silent Wolf. We would call him, we even had a joke where we would reference Kids Next Door. We'd call him number 1. We would call each other by our ranking on the PR. So I was number, whatever, 4 or 5 or 6. Me, Vish, and Sis were always 4 or 5 or 6. In some order, we would trade off. Silent was always number 1. But this time, Blade-wise was number 1. He was number 1 ranked in NorCal at the time, and he was definitely number 1 after getting 5th in this tournament, taking out Mango. And normally, we would look to Silent Wolf and say, well, what are we doing? Are we getting food? But we kind of all turned to Blade-wise. And Blade-wise looked at the gang, looked at us, and he said a phrase that I'll never forget to this day. He said, all right, guys, let's biz ounce. And I was like, why did you say that? This is the most Blade-wise was ever feeling himself. The highest he's ever been riding, you know? He had adrenaline coursing through his veins. He felt like he was on top of the world. And he mustered up the hardest street slang he could muster. And he said to the group, all right, let's biz ounce. And I think I looked at Blade-wise and I was like, and then I looked at Silent Wolf and I think Otto said something like, dude, I gotta get back to number 1 on the rankings. We can't be doing this anymore. Which brings me to the next member of the top 5 in Washington of all time. Of course, and this list is not in order because I think he would be number 1 for me for sure. Maybe some personal bias here. I have no idea. But it's Silent Wolf, of course. Who the fuck else is going to be on the top 5 but Silent Wolf? Yeah, I'm putting a number 4, but that's more, this is not ordered in that sense. Silent Wolf is the number 4 person I'm mentioning on this list. I don't think I really need to introduce Silent Wolf to most of you. I know he hasn't exactly been playing a lot lately. But, I mean, Silent Wolf clocked in with, you know, he had a top 8 Evo run. Now, people meme on it because Axe beat him pretty bad in top 8. But have you guys ever have you ever taken a look at, let me tell you about this Evo bracket. Let me see if I can pull up the actual bracket because it was crazy. The way he actually made top 8. If I can find this goddamn bracket, this was a crazy run. Let me see if I can pull it up. So this was his bracket. This shit was one of the all-time runs. So I remember the first thing that happened was we had to play at 10 a.m. I had to commentate, and Silent Wolf had to go play. And I went over, I had a little bit of time before I had to commentate. I went over and I watched Silent Wolf play what we call in the business a close 2-0 against Dark Rain. And I remember, I think he was up both games. He was definitely up game 2, but Dark Rain closed it out. Great set for the time, at least. And as you're seeing, I mean, this was a ridiculous bracket, right? I mean, Silent playing Dark Rain. Winner plays the winner of Shroomed and Cactuar. Winner of that plays PPMD. You know, you've got like, let's start, if this is already the point in bracket where it's basically star-studded, right? It's legends all the way down, right? Silent Wolf registers a loss to Dark Rain, and I watch this and I go, oh man, that's really tough because this is still a fucking ways from top 8. You'll notice that the path to get into top 8, outside of you know, or in winner's bracket, would involve winning not 1 round, not 2 rounds, not 3 rounds where you're going up against PPMD, not 4 rounds where you're going up against Hungry Box, 5 rounds. Silent Wolf would have had to beat PPMD, Hungry Box, and Armada to get in through winners. All right, but goes to lose against Dark Rain, and I say, fuck, man. Otto's my boy, but that's really tough that he's going to losers this early in the bracket. And I've got to go commentate, so I'm not even going to get to see the rest of his bracket. I commentate for about 4 hours. I run into him later in the day. And I'm like, so how'd it go? Because I thought it was a sure thing. When you go to losers this early in a bracket like EVO 2014, you're pretty much out of it. It's kind of a sure thing that you're just not going to make it that far. And he's like, I'm still in. I'm playing Leffen next for top 8. I'm like, you're playing Leffen next for top 8? What? Salvo's losers run at the tournament went. Gets knocked to losers. He plays Matt R, by the way, a legend, brother of Tom R, who is one of my favorite, if not low-key my favorite Smash YouTube channel of all time. Shout out to Tom R, aka Smash SSBM, aka Marth1. But Matt R, his brother, Matt Radovich, Salv takes it over him. I think he's a Falco player. Goes on to play Cactuar, beats Cactuar. Silent Wolf versus Duck. Silent Wolf, very, very good at the Samus matchup. Takes it over Duck, I think, pretty convincingly. And then goes to losers bracket rounds 5 to 10. The bracket is so big that no, this does not put you in top 8. There's actually a whole nother segment down here. Let's take a look at this. Now he's got to go up against the NorCal Gauntlet. Silent Wolf takes it over SFAT 2-1. Takes it over Shroomed. We don't have a score on this one. Takes it over Fiction 2-0. And this is where I ran into Silent Wolf, and I said, well, what's going on with you and your bracket? And he says, I'm playing Leffen for top 8. And he beats Leffen 2-1 to get into top 8. Which was fucking crazy. This is a monstrous run. There is just no arguing that this is this has to be one of the greatest tournament runs of all time that any Washington player has ever done. And it's a little bit tragic that it culminates in a meme, which is, people roasting Silent Wolf for getting four-stuck by Axe, which happens. And it's part of the package. Sometimes you just get blown up. EVO top 8, it's best of 3. Sometimes you get blown up on the big stage. Silent Wolf did get blown up on the big stage by Axe. In a 2-1 set, I might add. But crazy tournament run. Crazy tournament run. And Silent Wolf put many runs like this together. Battle of the Five Gods was another tournament where, he had wins over players like PPMD, almost Plup, but I think he actually choked it to Plup. He was up quite a bit game 5, and then I think choked it. Who else did he beat at that tournament? He beat a lot of people. So Silent Wolf, I don't think there's much else I need to say about him that I haven't already geeked out about in other videos. Talked about his incredible combo videos, technical videos. What he did for the scene, too. He really nurtured the scene. Like, he would always have people over. He was really, he was really trying to prop up me, Vish, and Sizz. I think he's a big part of the reason me and Vish became as prominent as we did, because he always encouraged us to get better. He always encouraged us to go to more nationals, go to more majors. Salv was the guy that basically told me and Vish and Sizz, you guys are the next up in line, so to speak, in Washington, and you guys got to get better, because once you start going to majors and you start competing at majors, you're going to realize that's where the real fun is. And he was right. So not only was he the best player from Washington by far, also the only Fox, I think, who's ever been positive against Mewtwo King. He's 3 wins, not 1, not 2, but 3 tournament wins over Mewtwo King that you can go watch during Mewtwo King, basically during prime Mewtwo King. So one of the all-time Foxes in the Marth matchup for sure. One of the Foxes in the Sheik matchup all time. Had that HGC throwdown run where I think he got 3rd, outplacing players like Mango, outplacing players like Mewtwo King, who he beat, and finally beating Drug Fox. So yeah, not much more I need to say about Silent Wolf. It's so far out of the question. I think there's almost the only person you'd even be able to put above Silent Wolf historically would be Sastifer, I suppose, because Sastifer's peak rating was higher, right? Sastifer was 6th worldwide. Silent Wolf was, I believe, 11th at its peak. But, I'm going to be a little bit more biased towards the more modern era. I feel like it was... But, I wasn't around. I wasn't around back in the day. I have a lot of respect for people who beat Ken in their prime, certainly. I think doing it twice is probably really fucking difficult if I knew anything about how dominant Ken was. So, not to take anything away from Sastifer, but I think Silent Wolf and Sastifer are the only 2 people that I could even remotely see being number 1, having the number 1 all-time spot. But anyway, I'm going to close the list out. This is where it gets really murky. There's a lot of people who could take the number 5 spot. All jokes aside, I think Iceman has a legitimate shot. He's a legitimate claim at potentially being top 5. I don't think I would put Iceman in the top 5. I think Vish, honestly, especially with his most recent results, I think, Vish has both the legacy factor. He was ranked a long, long time ago. And also, this year alone, Vish's wins over players like SFOP, Curve, Bobby Big Balls. This is a very solid resume, literally in 2020 and 2021, which is, nothing, wins that are nothing to shake a stick at. I would never put myself number 5. Although if you count years in the top 100, it probably would go to me. But that's not what it's about. I would not put myself in the top 5. I am going to do a service to the modern era of Washington, and I'm going to use this opportunity to highlight Washington's newest rising star, someone that I'm a big fan of. That's right. It's the Dak. The Dak is back. I'm putting Dacky as my number 5 spot. To be honest with you, I didn't really do my fucking homework. I don't know who Dacky's been beating lately. But Dacky is fucking good. I watched Dacky. He took like fucking, what was it? Like 9 stars. I don't even care about his tournament results. I don't even care if he hasn't entered a tournament in the last year. Because I watched Dacky play a crew battle against SoCal. And Dacky fucked on SoCal. Dacky made SoCal look like a D tier region. It was so bad. Dacky he made Null look like an idiot. He made Lucky look like a player who shouldn't even be mentioned in the top 2 or 1 players whose usernames end in CKY and have 5 letters in their name and play Fox, because Dacky was better than him in that day by a lot. Dacky tore SoCal a new one. I commentated it. It was funny. I thought it was humorous. I love Dacky. I think he's going to do big things. My impression of him is that he's got quite a ways to grow as a player. I think if he's not number 5 all-time in Washington today, he will be in a year. For sure, hands down. I think I need to see him at more majors to really know for sure where to put him. But I got to give it to Dacky. I mean, he's holding it down for the scene in a big way. I think his world ride ranking would be quite high right now. I really do value both your peak, how high you are, and how long you were there. To be perfectly honest with you, I'm not sure Dacky is an argument over Eggs in the grand scheme of things yet. Eggs probably, like, again, the rankings didn't exist for those years. It's not like there were 2008 MIOM rankings or 2009 MIOM rankings for me to really compare here, or 2010, 11 MIOM rankings. So it's tough for me to make this comparison. Eggs probably was like higher overall with, you know, he had a lot of really, really good placings at majors and stuff like that. His peak wins were definitely very good. So I don't think Dacky's there yet in terms of his major results, but I think I got to give this spot to Dacky. He's been entering a lot of tournaments. I don't really know what his wins look like. I can Google it right now and just kind of scrounge up some bullshit argument right now. Let's see. Dacky SSB Wiki. Let's see what we've got right now. Offline wins over Bladewise, Panda, and Smash Daddy. Online, he's beaten players such as Lucky, man, and this is because, I mean, he got good so recently that, you know, you've got to count his online wins. But he's got wins over Lucky, Meds, Fat Goku, Callball, Aura, Bobby Big Balls, and Slug. So I mean, excellent. Oh, Spoon, that's who I was thinking of from earlier. Spoon and Iceman, legendary rivals. But yeah, I mean, I think I just got to give it to Dacky. He's been so consistent lately at these online tournaments. Get on my line, had a 5th place finish at this. This was an online major. I mean, let's take a look at the bracket, right? I mean, if you're getting 5th place at a tournament like this, you're tying with a player like Toussaint, going down to, you know, losing to Ginger. I mean, I just feel like it's really tough for me I could see myself giving the spot to Eggs, but I gotta give it to Dacky, and I'm hoping that a year from now, even half a year from now, I'm hoping that Dacky, it's just going to be so crystal clear, brain dead obvious that he belongs in the conversation of the greatest Washington players of all time. He is going to be ultimately the person that I give the number 5 spot to round out this list. Not number 5 in terms of, it's not actually ordered because I gave Silent Wolf number 4, or I talked about Silent Wolf number 4, but he's going to round out the top 5 in some order. Honorable mentions: Iceman, me, Vish, Eggs. Oh, Eggs, of course. DJ Combo, I would say. I would probably put DJ Combo and Eggs above. I would probably put Eggs and DJ Combo. I mean, maybe a little biased here. I think you always have a little bit of respect for the people that were better than you when you were getting good. But I got to put them at 6 and 7. And you know what? I got to say Sizz, although Sizz is complicated because I think Sizz really, his best results were after he was in New Jersey. Also Salt Lake City, you know, Sizz is Mr. Worldwide. Can I really say that Sizz is Washington? Because I feel like Sizz is Mr. Worldwide at this point. I feel like he's Dali. I feel like Sizz is living Dali. So I'm not really sure if he's Washington. It kind of is, but he's also kind of Mr. Worldwide. Sizz might be Mr. Worldwide, man. My favorite Sizz set of all time, by the way. You guys got to look for it later. I don't remember who the fuck the Falco was. It wasn't Eggum. I don't think it was NJ's Finest. No, NJ's Finest is DK, right? What am I talking? Anyway, it was Sizz versus this fucking schmuck Falco from New Jersey. It was grand finals for some reason. And I've never seen a Marth beat a Falco harder. It was a triple 4-stock. It was a short set. If you looked at the timestamp, you probably would have thought it was best of 3. It wasn't best of 3. Fucking love this set. You guys got to go find it. I might watch it on stream some other time. It was so funny. One of my favorite sets I think I've ever watched. Sizz fucked on this dude. It was hilarious. Washington, you know, we've had people move out, myself included, and I think Sizz actually left Washington before I did, and you know, we would always, Sizz went to New Jersey, and we'd always look at his results, and we'd cheer for him. You know, of course they didn't stream all these tournaments, but we would look at the results pages, and be like, yeah, fuck yeah, Sizz is beating you guys, you know, all this stuff. So definitely tried to pay attention to Sizz's results when he first moved to New Jersey, and he was fucking on people for a little while. He was getting it done with the Marth out there. So yeah, definitely belongs in that conversation. Who else? I'm gonna end by saying Gimpy Fish. You know, I don't know that Gimpy Fish necessarily has the tourney results like that, but Gimpy Fish alone was the reason Mango had to shout out Bowser in his fucking, he made a matchup chart back in the day on Smashboards, and he said, let me tell you, Bowser can be tricky because there's this guy Gimpy Fish, and he gave me some trouble. He took me to game 3 last stock, high percent. I remember hearing about, apparently Gimpy Fish upbeat Mango out of shield. Mango's going Puff back in the day, right? And he was at like 50, 60. Borderline kill percent for Puff getting up yet out of shield, and everybody leaned in because I think Mango, apparently he was 1% away. Gimpy Fish almost had a career win on Mango in his prime playing Puff. That's nothing you shake a stick at. That's nothing you shake a stick at. It's probably really tough to be like consistent with Bowser. I'm sure Gimpy Fish had some pretty bad losses as well, but he definitely had some, you know, both in our heart and on the tournament bracket. I think he had some pretty solid results he was putting out there with one of the most garbanzo characters in the game. So gotta mention Gimpy. You gotta mention Gimpy. You gotta mention Gimpy. Watch Boozer Q3. That's exactly right. You know, and since we're getting into the 11s and the 12s, I'm also gonna mention Ganabrader, who had a fire set versus Plup at Smash the Record that one time. Looked like the best Falco to ever do it, except when he got hit. But man, when he was getting his hits in, whoo! Great Falco. All right, that's going to be the stream for me. I'm going to find somebody to raid. Hope everybody agrees with this list. And if you don't agree, leave a comment in the YouTube section or argue with me in my Twitch chat like Iceman of why you think you, Spoon, Rustin, Vino, and eBay should be the 5 greatest Washington players of all time. Hey, that's it for today's video. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. And listen, I've got a goal of having more subscribers on YouTube than Hugs86. And if you'd like to help me achieve that goal, then just make sure you click that subscribe button down below. Thanks so much and see you next time.